This is eCoffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show eCoffee with Experts. This is your host Ranmay here. And today we have Eric Lynch, who is the operations director at BuildCreate Studios with us. Hey Eric, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great, Ranmay.
Lovely. Eric, before we move any forward, why don't you talk us through your journey a bit, how it all started, how did you land up in the web dev and optimization side of things, and how it has been so far? You have been, in the space for since 2010, you said.
Yeah.
So, would have seen enough summers and winters in the industry. So give us something about your experience and also a bit about BuildCreate Studios, and we'll take it off from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm one of the founding partners here at BuildCreate, along with our creative director, Ian Wilson. We started the company together back in 2010. We had been working at another agency and kind of felt like we were running the whole show and could just do this better ourselves. We decided we'd branch out on our own. And I mean, it was really like, we were really bootstrapping it at the start. We popped up a folding table in my basement. We each put $50 in a checking account and we're like, hey, let's go get some clients and start doing some business. Right. So it didn't take too long though before, even within our first year, we were starting to hire and eventually got office space, which we had offices in Ann Arbor for a good 12 years until the pandemic. We're fully remote at this point, but we've remained a small team. But over the years, we've narrowed our focus down in terms of, what we're doing and who we're working with to focus on specifically B2B clients in the manufacturing technology sector. In particular, we just found that was where a lot of our energy was and where we were doing our best work. And so we wanted to focus more on that. When we started, a lot of what we were doing was website design and development. And we just found that over time, it didn't really matter how good of a website we made for our clients. They often didn't know what to do with it, both before and after. Like in some cases, they wouldn't know, what they needed to do at the start of the project in terms of like what audiences they should focus on or how they needed to pivot the content on their site. And then after, it was like, well, now that we've built this thing, what do we do with it? And we were like, okay, well, you need to keep making content and you need to actively, work on your SEO or your paid media strategy. You need to think about how you're generating leads and how you're cultivating those prospects and converting and so forth. So it was a pretty natural transition from there into just becoming more and more of a content marketing agency over time, really working with people on those creative assets, whether that's on-site content or case studies or white papers or videos, and just their long-term digital strategy.
Lovely. And like you said, starting out to keep the lights on initially, you're selling, you're delivering, you're recruiting, you are quite literally doing everything maintaining books, finances. You name it, you do it, right? Initially.
Yeah.
How challenging were the initial few days, months, weeks, whatever, to get few clients and, kind of roll it up. And then till the time you actually had your own team and expanded. Talk us through those challenging first few days, weeks, months. How
Yeah,
long
for sure. No, looking back on it, it was kind of a crazy time to do anything. Like we'd both just started our families, bought houses, watched the housing market entirely collapse, and we were like, hey, this is a good time to just roll the dice on, starting our own, company and quitting our day jobs and stuff. But the way we managed it at first, like Ian kept his day job for a little while and would work on our stuff at nights. And the division of labor between us was just, it was my job to run the business side of the business, like go get clients and bring them in and handle the books and the invoicing and just all the technical stuff. And he was kind of the creative genius that was executing on the work. At first it was just like, we would just look at it as we just needed to bring in enough business on any given month that we could keep going a few more months. So every single project, every down payment was like, hey, we bought ourselves 2 months, 3 months of runway. Right. And within the first 6 months, because at first it was just like, we needed enough basically to keep me employed doing it full time. And within 6 months, we had built up enough runway that we were comfortable having Ian, basically leave his day job. And we both went in full time on it. And a few months later, we're starting to make our first hires. So Looking back on it, it really did kind of take off pretty quick. But I mean, early days we were doing literally anything we could to keep things going. It was a lot of like, I think at the time it was like we were knocking out like Facebook page designs where like companies would want their own like targeted Facebook page, and we were knocking those out for like $500 a pop. So it was really like, it was like anything we can do to keep the lights on and keep going. But it it evolved pretty quickly. I think in part the work kind of spoke for itself, and we did well having sort of existing clients and connections kind of refer us or come back around to us from previous relationships we'd built. And yeah, I think that there's also just a lot of hustle. It took a lot of phone calls that I probably wouldn't take today. Eventually you figure it out. And after we got a ways into it, you wake up one day and you just go, oh, wow, I have a functioning business. And now it's time to really figure out like, hey, we should start focusing what we're doing and being a little more picky and really, codifying some of the things we've been doing all along.
Absolutely. And when you reflect on the first wave of clients, what patterns actually help you identify your long-term client fit?
Yeah. So what we found is that we were the most excited about work we did that we could tell had an impact with our audience. So we had done some work for we'll just say larger institutions as well. And it really felt like there were just like boxes that people needed to check. It was, oh yeah, we need to get a website redesigned. We need to create this or that thing. But we weren't seeing a tangible impact that this was having on the lives of the people we were working with or the organization specifically. And we found that that led to a lot of indecision as well. Like we'd pitch some really great ideas and people they'd hem and haw about it. But when we worked in the B2B space,
Mhm.
the work like it needed to be good or people's businesses weren't succeeding, like people's jobs and their revenue streams depended on us doing good work, and helping them with their brand, their reputation, bringing in leads. So that was a big part of it, was just being able to see the actual impact of the work we were doing and the effect that it had on the businesses we were working with. But I think a part of it was also the size of the business that we were working with. We started to narrow in on working with, we'll say, small to mid-sized businesses, folks that are like in the 10 to 20 million range, who are trying to get from 10 to 20 million or from 20 million to 50 million, where, they've got a reasonable sized team, but maybe not a huge marketing department. Maybe there's just a director of marketing, but he doesn't really have a team underneath him. Or maybe they have no team at all. Like in some cases, we're working directly with the owner and saying, okay, we can come in and set up a marketing department for you and have a functioning strategy in place. Really, when you haven't done anything previously and need that foundational strategy just to get up and running.
Absolutely. And you emphasize on execution first operations, right? So what systems have helped you transform projects, from, let's say, chaotic onboarding to predictable delivery?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of that has come from niching down. As we focus on a specific size of client and a specific type of need, especially as we get into working more with the B2B clients and folks who are very industrial or technical focused, the projects start to align where they're not all the same project, but they share a lot of the same common characteristics. And the more you can niche down and get projects that look similar, you start to pick up consistent pain points across your clients. And all of a sudden you're going, oh, I've seen this problem before. I know what the solution to that looks like. And that leads to processes that you can develop where you say, okay, we know when we execute on this problem this way, we get good outcomes. So that's really what it started with, was just, one, first and foremost, just always listening to your client, really taking the time, you know, level one is like you focus on like, what's the work I want to do, right? And then you get to level two and you're like, actually, I should be focusing on the work my client wants me to do. Then you get to level three, which is really, actually, I should be focusing on what my clients' clients need, right? And that's where we really started to put our time and our energy, was like, we got to listen, we got to pay attention to what it is that people are saying and what their needs are. And then as we niche down and we focus on working with the same type of clients over and over again, those patterns emerge and you start to build processes around them that let you execute consistently, repeatedly, to get good outcomes.
And like we were talking about it in the green room, right? You did mention about long sales cycles, in B2B sales processes. And now holding up the momentum for that such long period of time is a difficult task, right? So what content assets maintain that momentum and prevent leads from going cold, mid evaluation of the entire process?
Yeah, for sure. One of the things I always start by encouraging my clients to think about is that that process is it is a long process. I mean, for
Yeah.
the folks that we're talking to, often a short sales cycle is 6 months, and some of the sales cycles are like 2 years.
Right.
We frequently run into positions where we'll be like, "Oh man, we totally got this sale." By which we mean like we've convinced them and they've put us like in next year's budget, you know? So bearing that in mind, that sales cycle already seems long. But what you have to bear in mind is that that process also started potentially months before they ever talked to you. When they're doing their research and trying to figure out what they need, audiences today spend more time online before engaging with anybody from a company doing their research than they ever have previously. Obviously, that's, a huge part of what the internet's done for the world. So what we really focus on in terms of content is creating those resources that are going to basically build trust and demonstrate authority ahead of time so that by the time they're reaching out to you, the conversation feels different. And often you'll have, the initial conversations you're having with them, they're already substantially far down the decision making process. And a lot of times then it's whether or not they go cold from there between when you've really convinced them and when they buy is like how converted were they really? Were they like really convinced or were they like, "Oh yeah, maybe this will just be a good idea." So, and a lot of
Mhm.
that depends on the strength of the initial impact, the initial presentation that you made to them. So we really emphasize brand as being a key part of this. You really, really need to look the part, and you won't look the part with something that's just you can't just have like a replacement level website. It has to make an impression. People have to show up and go, "Oh wow, these guys really have it together." And then from there, we try to lean into high again, like authority building and trust building pieces of
Yeah.
content. If you can demonstrate results, that's great. Case studies are huge, and a big challenge our industry faces is not the challenge actually isn't just, oh man, we should have written up this case study or, oh, we should have designed something. It's, we should have collected the information we needed to make this case study in the first place. We needed to get permission from the client. We needed to get a testimonial quote. We needed to gather appropriate data so that we could create a case study at all. So that's one of the challenges we help people with. Um, and that's on the demonstrating results side of things. On the authority building side of things, you just got to show your work. And for that, I mean, articles, white papers, other resources that answer clients' questions and show that you're trying to be helpful. Do a really good job up front, again, before they're ever talking to you, of not just like convincing them to reach out, but really having them converted and sold on you before you begin that first conversation. And that's what's going to hold them over through that long sales cycle.
Absolutely. And, getting the attention of your target audience for such a long span of time and ensuring you're touching multiple, points across different channels also becomes so crucial in a B2B sales life cycle because there's so many decision makers involved in the entire process, right? So touch basing across the overall, creating overall marketing channel, touch basing multiple stakeholders at multiple touch points also becomes crucial, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the other thing that we really started to focus on with our discovery process was
Hmm.
recognizing that you have different audiences that you need to reach. And part of this is just expanding people's awareness outside of sales-based audiences that like
Correct.
yes, you do want to, convert leads and get new prospects in the door, but you also need to think about your internal team as an audience, prospective strategic partner. Recruiting has become a big issue, especially in the manufacturing sector. If you want to get the best talent, which long term is going to be huge for your company, looking like somewhere people want to work is a big deal. But even within just the sales audience, if we just narrow it down to that, that isn't one audience. It's several audiences, and it can be the technical person. Is a lot of times it's an engineer who's experiencing
Yeah.
a real pain point that they're looking for a solution to that's very technical. But then ultimately, they need to bring that solution up the ladder to decision makers. It has to clear, basically management and go to leadership and convince leadership this is something that's worth investing in and this is a problem worth solving. And being able to speak to all of those audiences and have content that's targeted to each of those different personas throughout the pipeline is a big part of the strategy that we do for our clients.
Absolutely. Talking about strategies, with all the AI movement that's happening, right? And with AI summarized answers and overviews and reduced click through, how should brands strategize about their visibility when traffic isn't guaranteed anymore?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So it's been an interesting year or two here, especially as people
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
cope with a shift in what their traffic patterns look like. And so I think that we want to be very careful that we are not putting sort of the cart before the horse here and not focusing on symptoms instead of the actual root issues. And traffic is symptomatic of success in marketing, but it isn't the goal, right? The
Yeah.
goal is actual conversions. It's
Conversion.
getting leads, talking to salespeople typically when we're talking about the sales audience side of things. So I talk a lot with folks about, focusing on their conversions, where their conversions came from, sort of inverting that marketing funnel instead of starting top down and going, oh, just get more traffic on your site and that'll turn into marketing leads and they'll turn into sales leads, and those will turn into sales. Say, look at it from the opposite direction. Where did my sales come from? How do I get more present on those channels, build up from there? And the marketing funnel is still true, but in terms of how you want to focus on strategy, you want to stay focused on what matters. The other piece of it that has to do with AI is that it's reduced traffic on websites as more people are looking at summarized searches. It also means there's more bots than ever on the internet. So some of the traffic has fallen off as people aren't going to your website. The proportion of the traffic you're seeing on your website that's due to bots is increasing. And what it's doing is creating more, I'm going to say it's just more noise in your traffic analytics in general. And it's important to bear in mind that the vast majority of people coming to your website are on some level people who want you to give them your money, not people who want to give you their money. Like 2% of the traffic coming to your site maybe are people who were ever prospective customers that were thinking, maybe I'll hire you and give you my money. Of the traffic that's not just bots and spam and all the rest of it, a lot of it is
Yeah.
people who want to sell you something, right? It's that one office supply cleaning company that won't stop filling out the contact form, right? So, when you realize that, it makes me really want to focus on the traffic specifically less, but also for anybody who's panicking about traffic falling or whatever,
Mhm.
the thing I really want to stress is the total amount of demand for goods and services in the world isn't changing. Like if traffic is cratering on your website and the picture looks different, the people who need the thing you sell, that hasn't changed. And people can't get that from a chat GPT summarized AI answer. Eventually, if they want to buy, sell, whatever, if they want to transact business, they actually have to get in touch with real people in a real company and they got to do something. And
Yeah.
it hasn't changed. And that's the piece that matters. So, focus on what's real and spend less time chasing vanity metrics.
I'm so glad you just said that, as to where the revenue conversion is actually happening, right? So perfect, perfect. Very good pointers there, Eric. And then you have been in a difficult market in the sense that, B2B audiences and marketing decisions, sales stakeholders, then the leadership, the IT team, right? Now, convincing the end client is so difficult for your client, right? Now, tell us one of your favorite client stories, which is really close to your heart, which you felt, I mean, actually did justice to all the efforts that you would have put in, or let's say your team, into that campaign, and they would have reaped benefits out of it. Last 15 years, any good client story?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. So we had one of my sort of favorite series of kind of client stories that we had is we came on board with a an engineering company that
Mm.
was um they recognized that their website was not doing what it needed to do in terms of converting leads. I mean, from a brand perspective, it looked terrible. It was like they really needed a lot of help. And so they were an engineering simulation company. And we came on board and we helped them with that. We overhauled the brand, we redid the website, and we got them into a position where all of a sudden they actually had a marketing campaign that was working and it was generating leads and it was doing everything that we needed to do, which was really exciting. And then they got acquired, which was good news for them in the sense that they were very happily acquired and the owners were happy to sell and stuff. But we looked at this and we are like, man, we did such a good job with these folks that we put ourselves out of a job. Like that's, I mean, I can't take full credit for it obviously, but I think some of the work that we did helped, position them in the best possible light they could. So, but as the acquisition is going forward, the client that was purchasing them came to us and they said, actually, we think you did such a good job with these guys' website and their brand and their marketing and their materials. We want to bring you on board to do it here. And we were like, well, that's amazing. Let's do this again. And so we were able to roll it up and go through that whole process again. Again, like fixing their brand and messaging issues, getting a great website in place, overhauling the brand, getting leads flowing in the right direction. And we were working with them for a couple of years before they got acquired. And it was like, wow, okay, well, we're seeing a pattern here. But it's what was great about both of those companies and those case studies is we were able to see the work that we did have real impact for our client. We got to see their traffic rise. We got to see their leads increase. Ultimately, the owners sold their companies and exited. But we also built long-lasting relationships for clients that we're still working with, because ultimately, even at the second company that got acquired, the director of marketing that we'd been working with there, he moved on, started another company, and like we were the first people he called when he moved on. And now we're doing the same thing for the next company. So to me, the most rewarding part of the job is doing work that is rewarding enough for the people that we're doing it for, that they value those relationships and they keep coming back because they know that we can deliver and that, we're making good on basically the promises we make when we sit down with folks and are pitching them on what we can do for them and what the difference it's going to make in their lives.
Lovely, lovely. Quite a story, I must say, Eric. Brilliant.
Thank you.
This has been a great conversation. And for our audience, if they want to reach out to you, how do they do that?
Yeah, I would say go to our website, buildcreate.com, and check us out. Take a look at what we're doing. I'm Eric Lynch at BuildCreate. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's usually where we post, a lot of our articles and things. We're always trying to put quality content out for anybody looking for resources or answers, particularly around B2B marketing problems when you're looking at those long sales cycles and complicated sales funnels and things. That's our audience. That's who we're looking to help. So if you're looking for answers on that, you can find them on our website, or we'll post about them on LinkedIn and find us there.
Lovely, Eric. Thank you so much once again, man. Cheers.
All right. You too, Ranmay. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.